This episode of Noise of the Broke Boys is brought to you by Political Debates. Do you love being aimlessly pandered to? What about a yearning to hear sweet lies being told directly to your face? Is there a certain phrase that a candidate can say to make you abandon all morals and pledge undying support to them? Introducing Political Debates. Enjoy the long-lasting 10-second release of dopamine as you hear all your biases being confirmed by lifelong politicians who definitely have your best interests in mind. Sit in the bliss of knowing that your least favorite candidate's ego is being defeated by your second least favorite candidate on a worldwide stage, allowing everyone to see that your second least favorite candidate is a person that they should vote for. Pay no attention to the word debate and what it actually entails, as it is more politically effective and morally just for candidates to use petty name-calling to argue their policies, then form fully thought-out ideas and explain them in nuanced ways. Enjoy your second least favorite candidate and watching that singular policy you cared about that they promised to enact but never got around to it. And now on to the show. In this episode, I talk with a very introspective individual. He's both an amazing painter and a popper. This guy always has some interesting things to say about art and its relationship to his life. Not only is he an incredibly gifted creative mind, but he is also an immensely intelligent entrepreneur. Please enjoy the episode with DKWAN. Welcome everyone to the complete and utter destruction of the last few brain cells in your possession. I apologize in advance for this, but without further ado, today's guest is a good friend of mine and crewmate. His name is DKWAN. He's a popper, he's a painter, he's an artist, and he's a tech entrepreneur. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, what's up, man? Good to see you again and have be on your show.
Yeah, I know earlier a couple days ago we were talking about some of the cool things you're working in the tech industry, and we can maybe talk about that later. But I met you through dance back in college, and you've been doing that for a long time. And then later I had realized that you also are a painter, and I believe you play violin or viola or one of those things.
Yeah.
You're a musician. You've always been like a pretty artistic guy, and I'm interested to know, how you came about those, to those things in your life,
Yeah. I mean, it started like when I was really young, and we're talking about before we went to his preschool. So before I was 4 years old, I, in sort of my development, had problems speaking and hearing. So like I had ear infections and stuff as a kid, speech impediments came up, and the only thing that I could really do was visual stuff. So I started expressing myself when I was a really young kid, just with actually drawing colors. When you're like young, your mom probably gives you like a big crayon box and such. Well, we had this big sort of cookie bin. It was like a foot wide and just tons of crayons. So I was already teaching myself how to basically draw and color, right? But as far as the rest, like going through dance and the viola and violin and such, that was just because I felt I should have done everything, which is weird self-pressure to have when you're 7. But, but for me, it was like, well, there's a lot of cool and talented kids out there. Why not me?
You want to be one of them? Yeah.
I mean, that was my definition of like cool was skill. And some other folks or kids, you have like cool clothes and such, but I would always get Walmart and Target. And back then Target was shittier than Walmart. Like Walmart was better than Target back then. For people who don't know. So, it's like you go to school and you definitely grew and you should get some new pants. But if you go to school and your pants are only as low as mid size of your shin, then you're like, well shit, it's just really hard to be cool. So all I have to do is just obliterate my competition in elementary school by being the fastest, by drawing better than all of y'all, by like super competitive type of stuff. And that was me, right? But it was also just because like, I guess I didn't have a lot of sort of attention So I wanted attention, drawing. I wanted to be on that yearbook. I wanted all that stuff, right? But it grew because I actually felt, damn, I'm good at this shit. This is like I was doing realism, drawing 3D hands and stuff with all the shades and all the fingerprints by the time I was 6. So it was like really unusual when kids are trying to draw stick figures and you're doing 3D hands. The contrast was quite big. So I guess later on when it came to dance, I remember, what was it, like 7th grade? There's this one girl, her name was Angelica, and she was like, oh my God, I love dancers. And I just remember that.
How old are you?
I was 7th grade. So
7th grade, okay.
If you're in 8th grade, that's 14, right?
Dude, no, I think 8th grade is like 12 or 13.
Really? Fourth grade is 10, I think.
Maybe, I don't know. That's so long ago. I have no idea.
Yeah. So obviously during those type of things, when you're going through puberty, not only is your sort of body transforming, so can your identity too.
I gotta impress the honeys over here.
Yeah. But I just knew it was a cool thing because I remember Taven Parker, Chantel, those were like the best dancers in middle school. And I remember seeing Taven Parker in a Sadie's Hawkins dance do the arm wave, and it fucking blew my mind. I was like, yo, how do you do that? I didn't say that, but that was my entire Sadie's Hawkins, was trying to study that someone did an arm wave. Not like I believed it. Like it was believable. It was that good. Yeah. I remember also another guy, he was a Filipino kid. His name was Nathan Montablo. And I'm starting to put these things together because it's been a while, but I remember in 5th grade he did the glide in a square, like how Michael Jackson does that. But he was able to do it in his Converses, and I just tripped out. So anything related to dance within middle school, I always just thought it was a higher level of like human being. To me that was like superpowers. To me that was like martial arts. That's right? Tight, but I didn't get into it until like watching some like old, MTV awards or whatever, where Michael Jackson's doing the back glide. Well, people call it the moonwalk, but really it's the back glide across the stage. And I used to have these audio cassette tapes you play on the recorder, and I would play that listening to Billie Jean, and that was like my only role models. Like I didn't really have anyone to define what cool was. Yeah. So I tried, because I don't have any recording. There's no just learning how to dance based off my memory. And they were only one-time moments. So okay, I remember practicing before I went to sleep. Like there's a lamp and some moonlight, but then there's a shadow against the wall. So I would practice trying to curve my arm against the shadow of my wall to figure out the mechanics of an arm wave.
You made a mirror without having a mirror. That's the ghetto mirror.
Right, exactly. So I was training myself in like 7th, 8th grade type of stuff.
Yeah.
Based off my shadow, because I don't have any cousins. There's no one from the streets. I'm from the suburbs. Like there's no gangs. I didn't even know what this stuff was called, but I just remember what it looked like, right? And that's like the artist coming out of me is like a memory. Then I'm projecting that visual, and I'm trying to transform how I move and operate through my habits to obtain it. It was only until I think freshman year in high school that then there was a hip hop club, and I go, okay. So then the vocabulary started coming in. I started learning, what you're really interested in is called popping. It's not Michael Jackson dancing or some other.
Is that what you called it?
I mean, like that's the closest you got, right?
Michael Jackson
or like there's break dancers, but then you're like, well, that's not breaking, right?
Yeah.
That's something different.
It's Michael Jackson dance.
Yeah, but like I was hella good. Not like I wasn't like a Michael Jackson impersonator at all. I was just trying to do. By 9th grade, I had waves, and I had kind of glides, but there was no hits. right? Hits and popping and all that kind of stuff. That was when they're like, hey, you need to kind of get into that. And then there's a guy named Derek Valerio and Mike V. They were in my art classes trying to educate me. All these folks I'm naming, they're literally all Filipino, and only Taven Parker was black. And in the audience, I'm Chinese. And so I belong in the honor classes because all the Chinese folks, you know, we are so studious and such. Like the stereotypes are super strong in my childhood. So all the cool kids are darker color and then all the, you know, East Asian type of kids are like just pure academics. But it was true. So, you know, if everyone's sensitive about that, you didn't live about 20 years ago. But anyways, I know we had to say stuff like that, like cancel culture and this and that, and like, oh, you racist. Like, no, that's like,
you're canceled. This interview's over, dude.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Sorry, DKWAN. It's only been 5 minutes in. We gotta cancel you.
Yeah, canceled.
But yeah, I mean, that was kind of like how it started. And so, meantime, I was always like painting and drawing.
Yeah.
You know, so I didn't paint until a crush gave me, her name was Melissa, and she gave me oil paintings for my birthday. I think I was in 10th grade.
An oil painting or paint?
Sorry, oil paints. It was like a kit.
Oh, okay.
It was like a 10-gallon kit in little tubes, like 5 tubes, primary. And so I didn't know how the fuck to use it, but I had a canvas board, miraculously, I guess. I don't know how I got that one, but she had a pet duck, so I took the paints and I just taught myself how to do oil paints. I later learned her dog ate her duck. And
what the? She had a pet duck, and her dog ate the duck.
Yeah, and I also like gave her a painting of that duck to memorialize it. Well, the duck was alive at that point, but you know, stuff like that. But anyway, like all this sort of like self-discovery of like dance and trying to find my identity was always like a mirage. Is the point, right? And then when you're before 18, that's all the time you're just discovering yourself, you know, sort of your interests, you know. And the thing is, it just didn't stop. Like there wasn't anything much to it that I felt I didn't like. All of it was awesome. And I felt it was a challenge because there were so many different ways of interpreting the same dance or paints, or if you're studying Picasso or your Salvador Dali or your, you know, Henry Matisse and all those, you know, great postmodern artists, you know, you could choose the same way with dance who you want to be. Right? Or like platforms, these visual and performing arts.
Yeah.
So for me, I kept that going into college, which of course is where I met you. And then of course, you know, we can get into those stories later. But art was always personal, and it was a way for me to mold myself and my philosophy. Whether it had any sort of career path or not, it at least allowed me to learn how to discipline, you know, pay attention closer to skills and detail, and then also question, you know, kind of the dynamics and the politics of like where art and dance was going, right? I mean, we're talking about like dance politics, we're talking about maybe new school artists and such, but it allowed me to make friends. Like I wouldn't have known you if I didn't also have the caliber to mess and with you in your time of dance, right? Like you're gonna form a crew with a newbie, like that's a waste of time.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly.
Like we all had to be a certain caliber to even like allow ourselves to go, all right, this seems like a good pack. Let's see what we can make out ourselves. But had I not done that, I wouldn't be having probably a strong as a friendship with you, you know, or the rest of the guys, right? But that has been, I guess, my way of sort of untapping sort of that artistic community like yourself and others. Yeah.
Would you say that your self-discovery has a lot to do with the art that you were doing? Like, do you think that really helped to mold you? I mean, it sounds like it did.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent. Sometimes, you know, if you have a relationship with other folks or you have other interests, you know, your dance and art can't take all that credit. But when you're trying to at least have an outlet and have a safe medium to exercise some ideas and maybe some feelings you're not really feeling clear about, like if you're dancing, you want to pick the right song you're vibing with. Is the song really expressing the clarity that I'm trying to understand? Because maybe something just happened and I don't understand it quite yet because you're so young.
Yeah.
Right? No, there's no prior experience. Everything's usually a first time at that point. So, you know, that and with painting, sometimes you would paint certain themes. Your colors would turn darker or brighter depending on your mood. But all it was really was just an acknowledgement of just placing all of that stuff into somewhere else safely so that you can get rid of that catharsis and then just move on. You know, that's really what it allows you to do, is just move on. And I think kind of like if I had to choose between the two, dance is quicker. It's accessible. You don't have to set up your studio. You can just get straight to it. Yeah. And, you know, you can usually start fine-tuning how you hear things. With painting, you got to sit with those feelings for a long ass time. Yeah. Because the painting is done. Well, you know, and you might get over it in 2 weeks, but then you're like, damn, I need another 2 weeks to finish this. And then your feelings are done.
Yeah, you know? No, you know what? When I paint, that's exactly how it happens with me. Is like I'll be really inspired to do something and I'll start laying it out and like getting my mind around what I want to do, but I know this is going to take me a week, and then I'll eventually will get like out of that mood, and I'm like, I'll take another look at this painting and I'll be like, you know, it was a good idea, but also I don't think I'm ever going to be in that mood again. And so I don't think I can finish this thing. So I have like hella unfinished work, like just in a backlog, you know what I mean? Like just tons of stuff. So it's like unfinished. I
have a lot of that. Like I had 4 paintings, all unfinished. And so I was like, I'm going to make a series of unfinished paintings. Like, what is this, right? All I did was just say, you know what? As I got older and I needed more canvases, I just said, fuck it. You know what? These feelings are so amateur at this point because so much older and more mature now. Yeah. I'm just going to write it out and I painted over it. That's what I did. I just turned it back into canvases.
Sometimes it's just like, I'm better off just using this canvas for something else because
this is the only way that's productive, right?
I seriously have like some canvas. I have one sitting right over there that's like unfinished for like 10 years, and I don't know. I actually hung it up for a while to just remind myself that I need to finish it. Well, I mean, it kind of turned into like an art piece in itself because it was like I'd look at it every day and I'd be like, it's unfinished. Also, everything you're doing is unfinished, so you need to work harder. So I don't know. It kind of like became like a motto for my own life. So I like it in that sense, but I wouldn't say anyone would look at it and be like, that's a good art piece. You know what I mean? But it means something to me, I guess, you know, so. But
that's like you're purposely carrying a certain baggage.
For reals, yeah. It's
like here's literally a chip in my shoulder. It's the size of a canvas.
Yeah.
You know, in your background, did you do those too?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, no. So this one, when I first started this show, I was trying to make a logo, and I got drunk and just painted this in like a couple hours. I don't know if you could see that one over there. Let me see if I can turn my this thing really quick. You probably have seen this before because I made this like hell long ago. I made this for Keiko a long time ago. Can you see that?
Yeah. The red strong due to contrast. That's good, dude.
Yeah, I was gonna make a whole series of those that I never got to. I probably will someday. And then I made this one over here. If you can see that, I don't know. This one I made in like 10 minutes actually.
For the viewers who may not see the fine detail, but I want to appreciate the border of your red painting that you painted the border side red.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that's the kind of detail that a lot of people don't appreciate, but I try to put that kind of thing into. Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, man. But, so I'm a little bit of, myself, and then now, when you're entering adulthood, even that's a struggle, right? Like you come so much as an artist, and you have maybe philosophical ideas and mentors and friends and such, but then you start hitting the real world and it just starts breaking down, right? whole idealistic. I mean, for me, my personality is very ideal. Like I like to go for the bigger, grander schemes. You know, I like to go long term. You know, very big purpose type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then when we hit the real world, when for us, I think for me it was like 2010, 2011, going to the workforce. That was like the middle of the Great Depression. And then coming off being a dancer from the internet and then winning like Dr. Pepper and shit. And like,
yeah, that's right. You did, huh?
Right. Exactly. I mean, there's all these past identities, but you know, meeting John Chu, and it's funny. During my trip there, part of it was going to hang out with John Chu, you know, director of, you know, Step Up and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he needed to make time because he just came out with Justin Bieber's Never Say Never documentary. So I watched with him, right next to him, his own movie of Justin Bieber, and then we were doing like spending a whole day of Dr. Pepper shit, doing Justin Bieber shit. It was weird, but I just remember that. I mean, it was a good documentary. I never knew so much about Justin Bieber, but
man, you know what? I can't lie. I used to hate on the dude, but then like there was me and Keiko were on like vacation 1 year, it was a while ago. And there was like this song that was just playing. I think we were in Costa Rica. I can't remember what song it was, but it was just playing. And I was like, oh, this song is dope. And then she was like, you know who that is? I was like, no, I don't know who it is, but it's lit. And then she's like, that's Justin Bieber. And then I had like an immediate, like, I don't know, you know, self-reflecting, like, you know, it hit me like a brick, like, oh no, I'm whack. And then so then I listened to his whole album and I was like, yo, this whole album is really tight actually. So then I gained like a huge respect for Justin Bieber actually. So
I think you probably heard.
I realized I was a hater, dude. I really realized I was a hater because he's a legit musician for sure. And I don't give a fuck. I'm a believer. Fuck anybody who thinks I'm not. So
he's older now, so and stuff. So, but let's go back to Justin Timberlake when he came offshoot from NSYNC. So, did you think any of Justin Timberlake's songs solo were good?
I don't know. Yeah, probably. I don't know. I honestly didn't listen to him that much, but he probably had some hits. Yeah.
But you know how like there was like tension, at least amongst the girls, or who was better, NSYNC or Backstreet Boys.
Oh yeah.
But if you really liked it as a dude, would you question yourself in your sexuality, thinking, "Am I gay?" If you know what I'm saying? And that's why you become a hater, because it's the same dynamic with Justin Bieber, right? You're like, damn, do I really think he's dope? Fuck. You know?
Dude, you know what? I actually really love the Backstreet Boys. Like, they are so dope. So, I don't know.
Well, I mean, you're looking like one right now.
Like Kevin, right?
Yeah. Well, you see, dude, you know his name.
Hell yeah. I know the Backstreet Boys.
All right.
Kevin was the oldest. I think my Brian was the second oldest. What was that?
He had a seat. My dad liked Backstreet Boys. He had the CD in his car. And I was like, that was the only CD he had. And I was like, what the fuck?
Isn't your dad hella Chinese?
Well, he is only Chinese, but he's very American. So, yeah.
I thought I met him and he had like a Chinese accent. I don't know. I don't remember.
No. It's going to be some other dad.
I just like to picture. I mean, maybe I'm just racist, but I'm just like picturing this like super Chinese guy singing like, you know,
like style or something.
Just singing the whole album like with a Chinese accent, which is a lot funnier in my mind. So that's your dad.
All right. Yeah, he can play that role just for your fun.
Just in my mind, that's what I dream about. So, but that's tight. No, Backstreet Boys are legit. I'm not gonna lie, for sure. Okay. I listened probably to every single one of their albums, and I don't give a fuck.
I think now's the time to confess, Kurt. What's going on?
Dude, I'm whack. I'm a herb. That's it.
All right. The truth is out now.
There it is. Sorry. That's the end. This is the end of the show. I'm whack. Sorry, you guys.
All relatable.
Yeah. So, what do you think the similarities are with like visual art, like painting and sculpting and stuff, with dancing.
Yeah, I mean, when you're a true, really deep type of artist versus a gimmick artist or a very like fling type artist, like this is who you are and it's how you only think. You start looking at dance, visuals, or other such as mediums. They're just different tools, right? You're going to get different results and objectives, but when I look at dance, it's the medium to express sound and movement, right? And maybe how I personally feel if I want to get an exercise out of it, you know, because popping is very aggressive and energetic. You can be smooth and start to, you know, really hit the sharp edges with different styles, or, you know, if you want to wave and glide, or even just stop and. But with painting, it's kind of different because you have to really have some sort of like intense emotion or visual inside your head, and be really disciplined in how steady you are to transfer all that energy into something visual that does some effect of that same intensity you had in here. So like I do way less painting and visuals than dance. Dance was like majority of my time.
Yeah.
Because I always felt a little bit crazier, a little bit more moodier, trying to do, you know, visual arts, because you got to maintain all that in your head, and you're just basically crazy for like a month.
Yeah, it's
right.
It really is. Like you seriously got to like lock yourself in your house, in your room, in whatever, and like just hold on to this emotion. I mean, like for reals, like just replay a song or something in your head, like on repeat, and do it. I mean, that's how I would paint for reals.
That's why it's good when the subject nature is deep, because you can maintain and sustain that emotion, right?
Yeah.
But you know, I actually in young 20s, you know, through the Great Recession and trying to figure out my career, what is a career, what is a job, all sorts of things, what I want to do. I felt like art was actually a negative force in my life because it added into my mental health issues.
Interesting.
Right. It was really unstable and volatile, and it was not something to depend, especially if you have things like bills, or you have an expectancy, you know, abilities. You want to take a girl on a date, but then, you know, you're like, well, if I take you on a date, I got to spend money on this food, and then I have less money now than to make a career out of myself or something.
Interesting.
Right. So, you know, what I did was dance still is good and safe, but then I started looking to different ways, you know, just very typical. I think all of us in our 20s as artists try to question. Very few can stick to it, and I have high respects for that, but it just was not for me. I just wanted to get the normal skills. I wanted to know what was on the other side, you know, trying to like start breaking down my ego. So I started teaching myself a lot about finances, slowly worked my way back into the startup area, just because that's my hometown in the Bay Area. And then it became tech, and like a few long stories of luck. But eventually now I'm doing software and such. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the arts, I can always come back to it. Like I painted a painting last December, and it was actually, some people said it was better than all my other shit, but I didn't do any practice. Right. And I finished it in 3 days. It was just because I was just being myself. Right. Like if you're still exercising, expressing yourself, and you're still able, your art skills or your dance skills, other than fitness, won't really go away. You know, you as a dancer, right? You still got it. You know, minus the fitness and the quickness, but your mind is still always like that because you've always been keeping the breath. If anything, sometimes you might be doing a session, get down, and you find yourself probably being better than where you were before.
Sometimes I have to take a break for like a week or so, or a couple weeks, just to like reframe myself, because sometimes I'm like, man, fuck this breaking shit, I'm out. And then like, you know, a week or two goes by and I come back refreshed, and I'm like, okay, I'm like now ready to build, you know what I mean? So I think that's important to do. And I would say with painting and stuff, I mean, the technique of, you know, painting brush strokes, using color and stuff, I feel like a lot of that is more of a mental activity than an actual like physical activity, and the skills don't really degrade as nearly as quickly as like dance dance moves and stuff. And so sometimes like, man, I'll take a long time off from like actually drawing and painting and stuff and come back, you know, with a fresh mind. I mean, a lot of times I'll do it as like a stress relief kind of thing. And I'll just get really invested into it. Really, I'll just get so invested in trying to finish this painting or something. And I think that that's really the best way to do it, to be honest. I mean, I haven't found a better way to do it, but I'm also not exactly like incredibly, you know, like I'm not out here trying to be like the greatest painter of all time. I do it more as like you know, a fun hobby kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I find that I'll get better at it still, because just taking a break and then coming back to it, you know, because I like to take in the world, take in everything I see, and then remind myself about that when I'm, you know, now working on a project and trying to do that. And I just play around a little bit and come up with some cool stuff. So I definitely feel like if I had tried to do it back to back, I wouldn't have that same reflection, you know, that I had by taking months off and then coming back to it. You know what I mean?
And I think that's like what you just said was a really important factor that separates great artists from just hobbyists. Yeah. Like, I don't consider myself a great artist because I will compare myself to like the endurance of Picasso. Mm-hmm. Like, go back to back to back and produce some wild, crazy stuff, and it still maintains a certain level of caliber, innovation, off the wall ideas. And he didn't just do, you know, cubist type of paintings. He did sculpturing. Yeah. He did. He was a Renaissance modern day guy. Yeah. But he produced profusely. He was just all the time. For me, I'll do something and then I'm like depleted my emotions, and it might take me a few months to go, all right, now I have built up something. You know, what's next? But Picasso could do back to back. So that part, you know, if I had to pursue art, I knew I would have to really push my mental health in order to achieve that level, and I just wasn't. Yeah, that's what deterred me. Yeah, but I do have friends who can produce because that is their, you know, way of income. That's their way of life, and I just admire that. You know, like there's different paces. Sometimes they don't feel they have the luxury to paint what they want. They got to paint what people want, so that way they can buy the commission and then live off. But then there's folks who go, you know what? I only paint one thing once a month. There's only 12 limited paintings per year, and they're immaculate. And, you know, my brand is strong. I can sell these like 5, 10,000, 15,000 K a pop, right? So if I had to go back into it, you know, after this, you know, tech phase I'm going to do, give me about 10 years and such, and then, you know, tech money, then I do plan to return in sort of a more a luxurious type of marketing level of approaching my art versus sort of community, you know, frequent painting, because that's just not my style. But yeah, I do have plans to go back to it.
Yeah, no, there's something to be said about that, because there's definitely, like, from the Renaissance times, there's a lot of like really famous painters that were aristocrats, and they were so good because they had the money and time to really invest in those skills, because they didn't necessarily need to, you know, worry about, you know, getting fucked up by life because, you know, they had money to like chill.
Expectancy until the age of 30. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no. So there's definitely something to be said about that. Going back to what you were saying earlier about like art and mental health. I think it's really interesting that you're saying that like it was becoming kind of like a mental strain on yourself. I've always felt that art is kind of like more of a stress relief for me, because a lot of times, like, you know, I'm at work or whatever and I'm going through it and I'm just like, fuck this shit. I'm trying to, you know, chill. I'm trying to like relieve some stress. The immediate thing I do is I just put on some music that I'm feeling, and then I just let myself kind of dance, like do, you know, roll around on the ground, whatever, have some fun. Does that not resonate with you, or do you look at it differently?
Yeah, it's about intention for me. So if I had to depend on it, like trying to say, well, I need to have a portfolio of 20 paintings, I have the self pressure that I got to produce, right? And that it got to lead to something. So that pressure alone, like if I'm depending it, like if I'm going to be an artist as a career, right?
Oh, I see.
And brand, then it becomes a little bit of a toxic self relationship because it's a do or die situation because time's of the essence, right? But if you have something else to fall back on, which I believe is the best way so that you can buy yourself some time and have support from your own self-financing and also learn other skills in the real world, then you can approach art in sort of more of a release than sort of on a clutch.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, like it was just tough because again, it was in the context of the Great Recession. I was in LA, you know, gigs as a dancer was shitty. Like my support was being a dancer, which is also volatile.
Yeah.
Right. I remember getting this one gig in my email inbox. It was like, hey, we need a birthday clown for $35. You can't make this up. And you got to bring your own costume and also drive yourself here and also feed yourself. And I was like, man, you know, like.
But did you do it?
No, I didn't. And I was like, well, I would rather starve, you know, instead of having that $35.
I'd rather starve.
You know, because like, yeah, if I would had a nickel and dime and go, you know what? If I take the bus, maybe I can like save $1 or $2. And then if I eat and like spread out and ration my Doritos, maybe from the carbs and how I move, I could maybe like only spend $20 and profit the 15 on the way back. But no, that was just too crazy. But like that's like the shit that you had to do. That's it, man.
Oh shit. Yo, the struggle is real. No, I feel you on that. No, like, yeah, there's some crazy gigs that people ask you to do sometimes, and it's just like
it's just dignifying. It's just like really stupid. But I get it. They're like, what do you mean? It's exposure. You can put on your credits, you know?
Now, what if they paid you like a G to do that though, and it was like a couple hours of work or whatever, you know? Oh
yeah, for sure. You know, I'll learn a double.
You'll put on a clown outfit.
yeah. I'll like learn. Yeah, it's like all I got is like a kigurumi costume PJs, you know, and then I'll find a wig or something. I remember one time I got an inquiry from LA Block who I was with, and it was a Best Buy's commercial trying to look for robots, and of course all the robots in Step Up were really, really fucking good. Mad Chad, Ace. Yeah. Like the professional dance robots were part of the same thing. But yeah, I was like
Boogie Frantic, I think was there. Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. Well, anyways, of course, predictably, I didn't get the gig because like everyone was there. But when I bring it up is because I dressed myself in silver paint, right? Like I got the costume, I got ready just for an audition, and that's how far I would have to go because, you know, that was my job, right? Yeah. So anyway, it was like, all right, I'm gonna be a dancer, which is volatile and getting shitty gigs. Meanwhile, I want to try to also half self-discover myself through painting, but yet also maybe see if I can make something out of it. It was just a bad combo. You know, in the wrong time, the wrong place, and very expensive. That's why for me, it was very deep to go, you know what? I got to reapproach this with a stronger hand, a different time and place. Allow myself to have a break because I've been an artist all my life and see what else I can become. But that was my own thing. Just because I know some folks go, you know what, I have to do art. That's the only passion that I can do. But luckily when I was younger, again back to the beginning of our conversation, you know, I had ear infections and I was bad at talking, so I can only do certain expressions really well that was visual. And other than art, it was numbers. So I was really fucking good at numbers. Like I can calculate in my head and all sorts of stuff. I don't need paper or calculator. So that's why finance was really interesting to me because it felt natural. And then that's how I broke into it. Now, some other folks who may not have, you know, sort of a affinity with math and different relationships and other such, you know, everyone's figured it out. But for me, that was my way out. Yeah.
So do those like mathematical skills, Do you think that translates into like your dance or your art at all?
Yeah. So you know how I dance, and then for
Yeah,
any of you,
it's very mathematical.
Yeah, it's extremely like methodical.
Mhm.
There's like grid systems. It has like a sort of a science to it. It's not random, basically. It's like everything is
Yeah.
done purposefully. And sort of like, yeah, there's like freedom of concepts and stream of consciousness, but it's always executed in a way that would lead up to a punchline.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't the best at it. It's just because my hearing with music wasn't the best. But it felt natural for me to be kind of mechanical about it. Some other folk that feels like it is holding them back. But for me, being mechanical was my release, because that way I could be a moving, sort of systematic kind of guy and artist. And that did complement both of my natural passions together.
Interesting. Yeah. And so do you think that also translated into like painting?
Yeah, dude. So my art isn't really random at all too. Like there's layers how I do it. So let's just take the painting in the background that you got, right? You got your background and foreground, you have your concept. So normally what I do is I do layers, tons of layers.
Yeah.
And I have it broad and it gets more specific. But typically all my paintings go through about a 10 to 15 layer process.
Yeah.
I do have it mapped out in my head, sometimes conceptually with what I'm following, but it's always trying to bring in the focus and also get rid of the focus in certain areas. It's hard kind of to talk about it, but all of it is not random. Like all of it is communicating with itself. And at the end of the product, I'm trying to play with the person's eye. So, because I do have other friends who go, I paint out of expression or how I feel. For me, I could execute a really great painting with no feelings now.
Interesting. Do you think that's a preferred way to do it, or is that?
If I wanted to maintain stability through the process, yes.
Interesting.
If I got my emotions involved into it, I might end up with an unfinished painting, man.
To be honest, man, no, I feel that for sure. Like when you get your emotion involved, like, yeah, you could easily end up with an unfinished thing that you're like, I don't know how I'm ever going to get back to this feeling, like,
right.
Actually, this is something I could bring up here is like, I've always wanted to write a book, and I had this weird concept where I wanted it to be kind of like a journal of like feeling. And so for a while whenever I'd feel like some extreme emotion, I would just start free writing on it in an attempt to be able to bring myself later on into that frame of mind, when I'm ready to actually write a story, you know what I'm saying? And so when I'm writing a piece of the story that needs to be a certain emotion, I have this free writing exercise I did where hopefully it would bring me back into that frame of mind. So I have like a whole bunch of stuff that I've written like that. I don't know if it's ever going to actually help, but I kind of like,
it's kind of like a memoir of what you did.
Yeah.
Right. Capturing moments of your writing, and if you can recall to it why you were writing it, you can make a separate column and then put a commentary to give it context.
Yeah. I should have done that, afterwards, and I didn't. Right. So when I read it now, I'm like, what in the fuck was I on drugs or something? Like, what is this? Like,
yeah. One of the things if I had it right, because I was trying to really cultivate some, surface level and some really deep philosophies for myself, my value system, and then also how I thought and perceived the world in sort of these math word equations. This is something I did when I was around 24, but I just knew it could become something more advanced later down the road. But it was like, instead of using numbers, you would use words and then use the functions of the math structure, like times or divide or square root, and then put in another word as a variable. That alone is kind of complex, but like it was a visual way of understanding my sentence structures to then produce more different type of outcome. That was just the kind of dude I was, right? And so, a lot of folks like in college, with Facebook and then, how you are hanging out, they'll only see one side of you that's visually expressed. Right. But all the shit that was going on in the background was like what I just told you right now. All these sort of like mechanical things. I'm brooding in my head, by myself. That's really what goes on inside my head versus what the people or what I project outside,
I find that most artists have some kind of wild thing that's going on in their head. I mean, I feel like it's necessary to have the like brilliant art to also have some kind of like, freakishly weird things that go on in your head. I mean, I definitely.
I mean, how else do you derive those things other than drugs?
Yeah.
I don't even have friends who are drug dealers, so I don't even have that outlet, even if I try to.
I've never done drugs, but everybody always says, "Hey, man, you look like you do drugs." And I'm like, I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult. But hey, I'll take it.
Has anyone said, "Hey, Kurt, you laugh like you just did drugs"?
Yeah, people have said that.
That your laugh is like a drug-like laugh.
Yeah, no, people say that. I don't know how to take that exactly. I will just say I'm gonna take it as a compliment. It's probably an insult, but whatever. Fuck them. But. Man, I mean, I don't know. Salvador Dali is like a really good example of like when I look at his art, I'm just like, dude, what in the hell was this guy doing? Because it's like, it's really, I love his art, but I'm just like, how the fuck did he think of this? It's like so wild. And like,
you need mental health issues to get there. Like you cannot be like, I just do this and it's how I express myself. If you're expressing that shit, you need to be fucked up. That is like a requirement. That's why it's dangerous, man. If you want to be great, you got to sacrifice something, and you're gonna be sacrificing your mental health.
Do you think that there's a healthy way to do it?
Can you be great and safe? I don't know. That's debatable. That's a good topic though.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, man. A good example of that is Vincent van Gogh. I mean, he's like a brilliant artist, but it's like he had so many mental problems. It's just like
and left veneer, right? Exactly, all sorts of things.
And like, I just imagine, man, if he had a therapist. I wonder if we would even have as great of art as he produced if he had like a therapist from the beginning. They probably would have been like, "Hey, man.
Yeah,
you're good." And he's like, "I am." And then, and that was it. And he never painted all the like amazing art that he did.
Like a really funny show. Just, a smaller audience for artists though. But like, what would these great artists back then, what would they operate like? And what would the episode be like if they were in today's world? Yeah. Like they went to a psychologist. They got prescribed certain drugs and antidepressants, Like what would that look like?
Yeah.
Didn't Vincent van Gogh like die from like, I don't know, eating yellow cadmium oil paint, which of course is toxic?
Oh, I don't. I thought he actually shot himself.
Oh, all right. Well,
I know
he
cut his ear off. Oh,
yeah,
man, I don't remember actually, but it was like some really fucked up stuff for sure.
Yeah.
But but he was struggling with a lot of stuff his whole life, basically. And it was mostly because he couldn't sell art. He had these like things he was trying to do with his art, and and I think he probably didn't think he was translating it correctly. I'd be really interested to see what he was trying to translate, because I really love his art. And so,
for sure.
And if he was trying to go for something even different, like, damn, dude, that'd be great to see. But, I don't know. I guess all jokes aside, I do think that there's got to be a healthy way to really do it. Because mental health is definitely like not. It's like an important subject. I was talking to my friend Donovan in the last episode about mental health, and he was just saying, how therapy is so important. to just like making your mental fortitude better, you know, stronger, giving you like some emotional strength. But I do think that, you know, I don't think that necessarily means you have to give up on the emotions that make your art good. I think it's just having a good balance of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know enough on the subject to really talk on it, but it's like, I think that
there's obviously a lot of really happy artists who make some beautiful things and they feed off that energy and it's like light to them.
Yeah.
Right. It's to them, it's a safe haven. To them, it makes them feel better. It is their circle of confidence, and it is what has given them all their opportunities and relationships, right? I just remember, though, there was this one book purely about the science of creativity. And they said, you know, if you were to be more melancholy, a lower heartbeat, and more sad, that tended to produce more artistic, creative ideas. And then, like, that was someone try to address this sort of debate. Can you do it out of happiness, or, you know, more uppity type of energy, or are you more of a brooding, stereotypical artist, like going to your dungeon and basically slamming your life in exchange for great pieces of work? And I think, you know, that was a paradigm that a lot of artists go through. And we're talking about real artists versus gimmicks, have an internal struggle, and then it's about them getting to the other side, and can they have a healthy relationship with their own work? So I mean, there's sort of that mad scientist relationship, there's that sort of like really crazy type of entrepreneur relationship, and for art, it's basically what you put out there. Is that a part of you, or is that more of a bigger vision, right? So I think for that part, I'm probably just taking, at least for myself speaking, just taking a long break to return for a healthy relationship. And that was, you know, to make sure it would not be strained by finances or worried about that. Yeah. Right. But yeah, I do have some other friends where they go, you know, I feel more confident now than ever because I became somebody because of what I produced. And so their life has been better. And it is something they always sort of fantasize. I wish I could do more and more, like a huge, big, you know, positive feedback. I also have other friends I know who just disappeared, and you just never hear about them. And they were brilliant, like really genuinely brilliant, but you know, you can't save them. These are people who will not ask or accept any help. So that is like the two communities trying to chase the same thing, yet they're on the opposite side. It happens a lot in the artist community.
And so you're also part of the tech industry, which you know, I think a lot of people would probably be surprised at that, but I do think that, you know, being part of like a you know, a startup kind of thing in the tech industry, there's a lot of overlap between like the artist mentality and tech startup mentality. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree that there are some intersects. Like if you had a Venn diagram and the two circles overlap, there is a place where the two worlds do meet. But there's enough other, not necessarily polar, but opposite worlds aspects that then represents diversity.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Right. Like typically, if you're in tech, it helps to be an engineer, and it probably also helps to have a background being a nerd. It's very seldom would you be. Go for it.
I was gonna say, there's a lot of nerdy ass artists. I mean, think of it like this, like, man, to be just a good dancer, I mean, damn, you gotta be really invested in fucking dance. I mean, like watching videos, like doing super crazy research. I mean, like for reals, like learning from all the people before you. I mean, I would definitely say I'm a freaking break dance nerd. And
yeah, for sure. Junkie, whatever the word you want to use, obsessed, true student, you know?
Yeah. So in a way, I mean, in some kind of like STEM kind of job, I would imagine being a nerd is just it just means you're doing that same thing to something else. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm obviously an engineer, and so I'm like a super nerd about like fucking math and stuff. So like,
right.
I do think that translates to dance. I mean, I think that might be why I'm a fucking nerd about dance too. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And nerd about really a lot of shit.
When you were crafting your, and we're going back to 23-year-old Kurt, 22, 21-year-old Kurt. So if I'm 20, you're 21, because I think you're a year older than me. If you remember how you dressed, and then how your hair was, and then the type of stuff you were working on, you were going through a lot of phases about, you know, because you had your way, but then you were struggling through, how do I get to that next level? And a lot of your choices through practice, which is where the changing happens, was kind of like that engineering sort of broad philosophy side coming through. Like you were aspiring a lot to, you were taking the broad things of like Bruce Lee, and then you broke it down in ways you can interpret it into your dance. And then it was about flow. I remember it was about how you connect to different moves. It was a critique also about what was going on, and always about originality, right? So like that hodgepodge of like originality, and which is really an artist thing. I just remember witnessing you doing that for your own craft. And of course, when you're building that with engineering in the real world, you want to be able to stand out from the rest. So I know that at least with tech and business and career, what I was able to bring from being an artist was, you know, sort of like the battling experience and confrontation, and not being afraid to be in meetings and approach, right? Battling definitely helps individual just get ready for the moment. Whether you're going to win or not, you're going to be present. That's really what it's about, right? I did struggle though translating from computers, you know, towards computer science from the arts. They probably may not share a lot in common, because let's be real, you know, software languages, how hardware works, and electronics is not really how colors on canvas.
It's really a language. It's a new language, really.
Yeah. So when I talk to other colleagues, they often, in the very beginning, when I was at Google in 2013 for the Moonshot project for Google Glass, and I was recruited because I was a dancer. Actually, that's how I got in, because they wanted brand ambassadors who was cool, but I just wanted a fucking job. So I said yes, of course, right. And so they were like, "Oh, well, you know, you can dance." So I was like, "Oh, sure, whatever." But I remember when I was talking to other folks, they could never understand me because I was so abstract. In the way I talked, never precise, never got straight to the point, just all over the place. But I used that opportunity at Google to at least just observe sort of the excitement of what other people were excited about. They wanted to create new industries. They wanted to try. And of course, there were things that were not at all familiar from the art world into that. Basically, there was new stuff I had to learn, like fundraising. A lot of the sort of elite people who were behind the scenes, they were board directors of Forbes, you know, just a lot of wealth, that kind of culture. And so you, if you're in Silicon Valley, you get a lot of that sort of insight into those wealth things, because if you have your own startup, like I do for myself, I'm starting to go into a lot of meetings with folks who are from that world that otherwise you would not get typically through art. However, though, challenging that, I do have this artist friend, and we chat pretty often. And you know, when it comes to buyers and it comes to selling really expensive things or trying to touch upon that, those same buyers who purchase art for thousands and thousands, or also the same type of family wealth that also invests into companies too. So my worlds are starting to intersect through the main objective, where the same crowds of folks who typically have a family office for investing also sometimes invest into art because that's their tax write-off. You know, it's just weird how more recently it became a full circle, but the journey in between, they are so disconnected. That's what I found.
Man, that's interesting. So we're approaching it an hour. So we should probably look at closing the show out soon, but I wanted to ask you, because you're working on some really cool things, and I know that you're under NDA. I'm under NDA, so there's probably not a lot we can talk about. But is there anything you can publicly say about the like really cool projects that you're working on in the tech industry? Because I think it's like so cool.
Yeah. So basically, in a very quick line, I'm working on parallel processing software, and that subject level of software with our team, that it was just so difficult to do that it just was done in small parts but never on a whole wide system. Basically, all the computing processing and issues you got for lag, you want to do multiple applications and stuff, all that slowdown would go away just because your software logic was different to fully utilize the hardware that you're doing. All of the rest of the details is basically, of course, stealth mode, but we do want to apply it to, like our interaction right here, you running YouTube, all the things in the cloud and such. But out of all the experience I did, self-driving cars I was part of for Google, other things for other startups, this stuff that I'm working on now, to me, is the most important piece of the software journey for the last 40 years. Yeah. The last most important piece of technology, in my opinion, was the personal computer PC.
Yeah.
Since then, we have made advancements, but never quite that impactful. Here, if you have parallel processing software for our operating system, you would be able to finally bring all that wishes and performance to the true potential of what hardware does. So that's what I'm doing. And yes, a dancer can do it. It takes a long time to do it, to get there, and you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
The guys and teams I have, they've been doing it for all their lives. It's just I'm that diversity that came into the picture and part of that team. That's all.
And what I think is so cool about it, and this kind of makes us full circle, is that like this is a complete reimagination of like how your computer really processes. And I really do believe that it took an incredibly creative person to come up with this sort of system to do it. And coming full circle, it's like an artist is really like reshaping the tech world, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people like to worship or give credit to Steve Jobs, but honestly, Steve Jobs was just a salesman. It was engineers behind him that brought the scene, right? I mean, the iPhone was not actually the first phone computer. It was somewhere else, and they just put the parts together. But yeah, creativity in tech, it plays a big role when there's a plateau. You're going to need the side and your operations side to bring you to that level. But once you hit that plateau and it feels like nothing's budging, that's when you go hard on creativity.
Yeah.
And like right now with COVID and economic impact and people changing their lives and being affected for better and for worse, more commonly worse, we're hitting a lot of plateaus. And so a lot of folks got to be really creative in reinventing not only what they do and interact, but how they interact with themselves and what they got to do for next year's. Whether you accept the challenge or not, your life and creativity depends on it. That's at least how I feel. That might be a high standard and maybe insensitive because some people don't have that luxury to really think for that reflection because so much is happening. But creativity right now can bring out the best of solutions for people.
Yeah. Dope, man. That's dope. That's a dope way to end this. My last question is, what's up with this sexy light that you got on yourself? It's
the room. Green. I decked out the house with color lights everywhere. So every room got it.
Just for fun, or is this?
Yeah. Just for the fun. Just for tenants if they want. So I'm just borrowing one room.
Yeah.
But basically at night, the place that I got in San Francisco can turn into a party house.
A discotheque, man.
Yeah. Wow. I just thought green and pink is pretty good.
No, it looks dope, man. Well, thank you for coming on the show. This was a great discussion. I mean, I learned a lot about, just your frame of mind, your mindset around art and everything, and how it relates to the tech world and painting and everything. I think this was dope, a dope discussion. So, last thing, where can people reach you?
Oh,
you don't really use social media, but
you can reach me through Kurt if you want, because I don't do social media. And it's okay. It's okay. Actually, no, just find me on LinkedIn, DKWAN. That's where I only use, I'll be still kind of in the dungeon, but for a lot of folks out there, there is an Instagram, but I won't add you back. That's another story too. When I did this one
would you
gig,
add me? No, I think
yeah, I would add you like a year later when I log in just to see what happens, right? But when I did this is the last note. When I did this one Netflix gig, because I got called randomly, and it was like a movie. It was like The Laundromat 2 or something. I don't know.
What the fuck?
But they needed a bunch
Straight
of
to DVD.
Right. So I do have like 2 seconds on Netflix for myself. But one dude I was making friends with on set, he was like, "Hey man, what's your IG?" And I gave it to him. He's like, "Well, you gonna add me back?" I was like, "Oh no, I don't log in. You can add me." But I may not. So, I just bring that up, but folks, don't get offended. Just get a hold of Kurt or just add me on LinkedIn. And,
and sit tight. There's gonna be some cool announcements someday with the cool projects that he's working on. Well, anyways, with that, thanks for being on. Thank you guys for listening. Sorry the show sucks. Tight. Peace.
Peace.